Last night I was on the road with the lovely Julia. We were out to do one of our talks. We went up to East Hertfordshire and we met a lovely bunch of people there who'd booked us to come and have a few words about the YouTube journey, about the situation that we're in. And of course, what I'm particularly interested in is the solutions for what we're going to do. And it was so nice to get out and actually meet real people, and because often I just sit here in front of my camera and I spout my so-called wisdom, and people respond and they obviously enjoy it because they come back and the numbers have been good. But you can't get any better than actually meeting the real people. So many people coming up, shaking your hand and saying thank you very much for your videos, keep going, and all of that, which is lovely. However, of course, talking to people, I'm interested in getting as many ideas as I can and help formulate my mind about what we can do, see what other people are doing and listen to their thoughts and suggestions at the same time, and in a way have this amalgamation of the minds, which I think is absolutely essential. And then if I can crystallize those thoughts and then come back to the camera like I am today and talk about some of those ideas and things that might be of importance to us. Now, yesterday I put up a video first thing, only I made a bit of an error in some of the detail. So I was asked to pull the video because it mentioned a particular individual, and so I did. So this is a sort of cross between the two videos, because between the two events, really, because the video yesterday was really about, are you still going to your doctor? Do you still trust the policeman? Are you still putting your kids into school? And if so, why, when we know that all these things have been corrupted and so much fraud is going on? We know we can't trust the MPs and we barely trust any of our councillors, what with all these 15-minute cities coming down the pipe and the 20-minute low traffic neighbourhoods. And so it's all very well saying to ourselves, and this is one of the points I suppose that was made, it's all very well saying, well, actually we can do without all these things. We are the people, we're sovereign, and we're at the grassroots. We're going to turn our backs, which is what I'm saying a lot of the time, that we're not like little children, but we are adults and we can make our own decisions. Somebody in the room said, well, whilst that's all true and that's what needs to be done, and I don't disagree with you, Richard, but what we really need, of course, in these early stages is some form of our own police force or police service or police constables, peace service. Because, of course, we can turn our backs and try not to pay all these bills that come in that the government are sending to us. But, of course, they still have the full force of the law on their side. And I thought to myself, well, this is a very interesting point, because if you set up a kingdom, if you're setting up your own kingdom somewhere and you're saying, we want none of that, the first thing that you really need to do is to be able to defend yourself. Now, I'm sure that we can all try and do our best to defend ourselves on paper, but when people act unlawfully and they start using brute force, or they don't believe or have any respect for your own laws or way of life, and they say, well, no, you're still in our system whether you like it or not, we need to be able to get to that point where we have enough, or at least some, police constables who are operating under natural law peacefully, but are able to very cleverly outwit the full force of the old law by these people who are dressed up in uniforms, trying to take away our sovereignty and our rights. And now I don't know, and I realise very easily that I don't have all the solutions on how you do things, but I do know that there are very clever people out there. And every time I go to these sort of meetings and I talk about my journey and my understanding of the world and my ideas, and it's only an opinion, and everybody can disagree with me, and some people do disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine, because we've moved on, I hope, certainly within the truth movement, we've moved on from that point where if you disagree with me, you're an idiot, like we saw during Brexit, which was not very helpful at all. That sort of divide and conquer technique that's being used by the globalists, by the cabal, by all those people who are down beneath them, the puppet governments and what have you. We now are able to disagree, because it's only by disagreeing can we go, okay, I wonder why you don't see it the way I see it. That's interesting. Let me put my feet into your shoes and see what you see. And oh, I see, yes, maybe we should do an amalgamation of the two, or a bit more that side or a bit more this side, and slowly we come up with solutions. And I think that's, you know, it's how science works, isn't it? If we all just go, here's the science, we can all agree on the science, and everyone says yes, that's how you manage to get a population to be mandated to have some medical intervention, which afterwards they regret. So we need to be able to disagree or pull apart the arguments and say, well, whilst that's good in principle, here is something that might be a bit awkward for that. Perhaps we should dissect it and think about it. It's a problem within the solution we have, but we need to work it out. And having our own police service, or our own constables that can combat anybody who comes after this new society, well, that's one of the things that we need to organise and work out how we do it. We don't want fisticuffs, we don't want people being arrested and pulled away, but we want a service that says, actually, I am just as lawful as you think you are, and therefore we can stand our ground. So again, it's something to think about, and that's why for me it's so important to get out into the community and find out what other people are thinking, not just those people who've put their fingers on their keyboards and sent me their emails, or what I can find out on alternative media. Because I don't watch mainstream media, of course. Why would I want to be watching that biased stuff? Although, of course, sensibly, I suppose you might want to see what the enemy camp are putting out so that you know what is the 180-degree reverse of it. But I don't want to be scared by all their nonsense. I'm mainly now focused on the solutions for what we should do. Now, I have got a few more of my talks, and I will try and keep my webpage updated so that people know where I am and where I'm talking. And of course, I'm happy to do some more of those if people would like to get in touch and ask me to come along. Some places are long journeys, so it's as much as I would like to do a lot of travelling, if I could hook up perhaps with other people who are doing these sort of things, other truthers on the freedom movement, trying to explore the solutions. I've got one coming up with Clive de Carle, for example, in Hove in a few weeks' time. That will be on the website, and we'll tell you about that. If one can hook up with other people, then perhaps you can share the journey, or you've got somebody else to thrash out these ideas with, and that really helps. Anyway, if you are still relying on the old system, like putting your children into school, or if you're still going to the GP, or any of these sort of modern day services that we've become to very much rely on, perhaps it is worth at the very least looking at the alternatives, like alternative medicine, alternative home education and those sort of things, because there are groups now springing up who are providing that. Food, of course, is another one in which it was fascinating to see how many people are now slowly understanding that what you buy in the supermarkets isn't necessarily that wholesome. It has no minerals and vitamins in it, and of course it can be highly processed and covered with all sorts of nonsense that is not very desirable for our bodies. Of course, there's all the spiritual side of our nature, which I haven't overly got into because I'm still exploring that myself. So it's worth looking at alternative methods, for in this new society, unless we actually want to get into these 15-minute cities and digital IDs and CBDCs and go down the foolhardy path of a net zero, we're definitely going to have to start now building up brick by brick, idea by idea, individual by individual, these new ideas, these new ways of doing stuff. And it is, of course, all down to us from the grassroots movements.